I never thought my life would turn into someone else's shadow play. My name is Ji-won, older by 5 minutes to my twin brother Ji-woo. People used to say we looked alike but only on the surface. Where Ji-woo's smile was bright and favored, mine always seemed to fade into the background. He was the adored son, the golden child, while I was the one brushed aside, forgotten, tolerated. It wasn't that I was weak. Far from it. Unlike most Omegas, I wasn't fragile or submissive. I carried the bloodline of an SS Omega, the rarest classification of them all. Stronger than even some alphas, my body carried resilience, my mind sharper than most. But still none of that mattered. My parents only saw Ji-woo's beta designation and praised it as if it was heaven's greatest blessing. Ji-woo will lead this family one day, my father would always say, his voice warm with pride. And Ji-won will take care of himself somehow, my mother would add with an airy laugh. It hurt. But I learned to stay silent. Even now, as I stood in front of the tall mirror on what was supposed to be Ji-woo's wedding day, I wondered if fate was playing some cruel trick on me. My reflection looked every bit the delicate groom, snow-white hanbok embroidered with golden threads, a jade clasp holding my collar together, my hair neatly tied back with a ribbon. But I wasn't meant to be here. It should have been Ji-woo walking down that aisle to marry Gyu-min, the infamous Mafia Alpha. The man everyone respected and feared. I still remembered the moment it happened. That morning, Ji-woo had walked into the living room, where our parents fussed with wedding details. His voice was casual, as though he were announcing he'd changed his favorite dessert. "Father, mother," he said, "I don't think I'll marry Gyu-min after all. I've fallen out of love with him. He's boring. No fun at all." The room froze. My mother's teacup clattered against its saucer. My father's face drained of color. "Ji-woo." Father's voice cracked. "Do you realize what you're saying? You're breaking off a wedding with him?" "He's too uptight," Ji-woo shrugged, smiling lazily as if this wasn't a death sentence. "Besides, I've found someone else. Someone who actually loves me." I felt my heart sink. Gyu-min wasn't just anybody. He was a powerful Mafia Alpha, known for his no-nonsense, transparent, and upright nature. He was feared by his enemies and respected by allies alike. To reject him on the day of his wedding was akin to spitting in the face of death. Mother's eyes darted toward me then, cold and sharp. "Ji-won," she hissed. "You will go in Ji-woo's place." My chest tightened. "What? Do you want this family destroyed?" Father barked. His fists trembled against the armrest of his chair. "Do you want Gyu-min's wrath to fall upon us? Ji-woo is our treasure, but you can at least be useful for once in your life. You will marry him. You will protect this family's honor." I felt the world tilt. My own parents were bartering me away like some pawn in their game. Ji-woo only smirked at me, tilting his head. "You always wanted to prove you were better, didn't you, Hyung? Well, let's see if you can survive being married to him." That was the moment something inside me broke. "I will never forgive you," I whispered. My fists were clenched so tightly my nails dug into my palms. "Not you, Ji-woo. Not you, father. Not you, mother. Forcing me into this. I swear I will never forgive you." And now here I was, standing in front of the mirror, about to walk down an aisle meant for another. The music began. My steps echoed in the grand hall as petals fell around me. Hundreds of guests turned their heads, smiling and whispering, none of them aware that the groom walking toward Gyu-min was not Ji-woo. And there he stood, Gyu-min, broad-shouldered and impossibly tall in his black ceremonial suit. His aura was suffocating, but in a way that demanded respect. His dark eyes softened the moment they landed on me, or rather, on who he thought I was. I could see it in his gaze. Love, warmth, joy. My stomach twisted. That look wasn't meant for me. The ceremony passed in a blur. Vows spoken. Rings exchanged. Applause thundering. A smile plastered on my lips that wasn't mine. When he leaned in for the kiss, I froze for half a heartbeat. His lips were warm, firm, certain. My heart betrayed me with a sharp flutter, but I told myself over and over, this is not love. This is not real. This is not mine. That night, everything became unbearable. We were in the wedding chamber, the air heavy with scented candles and soft silk sheets. I stood stiffly near the bed, my hands trembling as I fidgeted with the jade clasp on my hanbok. Gyu-min entered, his steps unsteady. He was drunk, flushed cheeks, glassy eyes, lips curved in a lazy smile. "My Ji-woo," he murmured, his voice deep and husky with desire. "Finally you're mine." I felt my chest squeeze at the name. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. He closed the distance, his strong arms wrapping around me. The heat of his body, the intoxicating scent of his alpha pheromones, It made my knees buckle. "Wait," I stammered, but he pressed a kiss to my neck, then lower, his lips trailing fire down my skin. His hands roamed, untying the ribbon at my waist, pulling at the fabric. I panicked. My heart raced, my breath coming out in shallow gasps. I had never been touched like this before. I had never even kissed anyone until that forced wedding kiss. "Please," my voice cracked. I can't." And then it happened. He released his pheromones fully, flooding the room. The air grew thick and heavy, pressing against me from all sides. My vision blurred, my legs gave out, and I collapsed back onto the bed. Yumin's eyes widened. He leaned closer, sniffing at my scent, confusion darkening his face. "This isn't right," he muttered. His hand cupped my waist, his thumb brushing over the faint scar near my hip. His gaze sharpened instantly. "This scar. You're not Ji-woo." My breath caught. My whole body trembled as I clutched the blanket around myself, half naked, terrified. His voice was calm but deadly. "Who are you?" I wanted to run. I wanted to vanish. But his eyes pinned me in place. "I promise not to hurt you," he said slowly, firmly. "But you will tell me what in the hell is going on." And so, with tears in my eyes and shame burning through me, I confessed everything. How Ji-woo had abandoned him. How my parents had forced me into this marriage. How I had no choice. When I finished, silence filled the room. My heart pounded so loudly I thought it would burst. Finally, Yumin leaned back, exhaling heavily. His face was unreadable, caught between betrayal and thought. "You," he ran a hand through his dark hair, then sighed. "You are not who I wanted." My chest ached. "But," he continued, meeting my eyes, "I won't hurt you. I won't touch you. Not unless you permit it. Not unless we both want it." Relief washed through me, though it was bitter and sharp. He had every reason to cast me aside, to kill me even. But instead, he chose restraint. And for the first time in my life, someone, this feared Mafia Alpha, had given me a choice. I didn't know then that this night, this fragile moment, would change everything between us. The morning after my wedding night, I woke up expecting fury. But instead all I found was silence. When my eyes fluttered open, the first thing I noticed was that the space beside me in the massive bed was empty. The sheets were rumpled, but Yumin wasn't there. The second thing I noticed was the faint smell of coffee wafting through the air. Strong, bitter, masculine. My body was stiff. Every muscle still remembered the tension of the night before. His lips, his touch, his pheromones overwhelming me until I almost lost myself. The memory made my skin burn with shame. I pushed myself upright, clutching the silk sheets to my chest. I expected him to barge in, demand answers again, perhaps drag me out in front of everyone and announce the deception. But when I finally gathered enough courage to step out of the bedroom, I found him seated calmly at the dining table. He looked different in the daylight. Less like the terrifying Mafia Alpha the world knew, more like a man. His tie hung loose around his neck, his black shirt unbuttoned at the collar. His hair, usually slicked back with precision, fell casually over his forehead. "Sit." The command was simple, low, yet carried a weight that brooked no argument. My legs moved before my mind caught up, and I found myself sitting across from him. On the table, breakfast had been laid out by servants. Steaming rice, side dishes, grilled fish. But my stomach was too tight to even look at the food. He poured coffee into a porcelain cup, slid it across the table toward me. I stared at it, unsure. "I don't drink coffee." "Then don't," he replied, his eyes cool. "But at least try to eat." Silence stretched. I picked at my rice nervously. The clatter of his chopsticks was the only sound in the room. Finally, I couldn't bear it anymore. "Why didn't you tell them?" I asked softly. He didn't look up. "Tell who?" "That I'm not Ji-woo." My voice wavered. "That I was forced into this." His chopsticks paused midair. Slowly he set them down, then leaned back in his chair. His dark eyes fixed on me, sharp and piercing. "Do you think I'm the type of man to humiliate myself in front of hundreds of people?" he asked, voice low, dangerous. "Do you think I'd let the world see that the person I swore to marry abandoned me?" My throat went dry. "No," he shook his head. "The betrayal is mine to carry. And for now you'll remain my spouse, at least in everyone else's eyes." A strange mix of emotions swirled inside me. Fear, relief, guilt. But his gaze softened just slightly, almost unnoticeable if I hadn't been staring so closely. "I told you last night. I won't touch you. I won't demand anything from you. Not until—" his voice faltered, then steadied. "Not unless you want me to." The sincerity in his tone unsettled me. I had braced myself for cruelty, for force. Instead, I found a man who, despite the steel in his veins, still held on to honor. The days that followed were strange. We moved like two strangers bound by a chain neither of us could break. At the mansion, I was given my own space, my own library, my own little garden in the courtyard. Servants bowed to me as though I were a king, but inside I felt like an imposter. Sometimes I would catch glimpses of Gyumin as he went about his business. He was always on the phone, issuing commands in that deep, steady voice of his. Sometimes I'd overhear words like shipment, deal, betrayal. The underworld of mafia life was one I had only heard whispered in fear, yet here I was, married into it. And yet, in the quiet moments, I saw a different side of him. One evening, I walked into the study by accident, only to find him seated by the window, glasses perched on his nose as he read a novel. A novel, not a business report. His brow furrowed in concentration, his lips occasionally curving at a passage that must have amused him. He noticed me and removed the glasses swiftly as if embarrassed. "You should knock before entering." I bowed slightly, flustered. I didn't know you read fiction." He raised a brow. "Why wouldn't I? I just thought." I hesitated, searching for words. "Someone like you wouldn't have time for stories?" His lips curved into a faint smirk. "Stories are what keep a man from becoming a machine." That answer lingered in my heart longer than I cared to admit. But still, the nights were the hardest. We shared a bed. Or rather, we shared a room. He never touched me. Not once. He would take his side of the bed, lie down, and drift into sleep without a word. At first I was relieved. But soon the distance became unbearable. Sometimes I would turn slightly and watch his sleeping form. His chest rose and fell steadily. His face was relaxed, far gentler than in the day. In those moments he looked almost vulnerable. Almost human. And I hated that my heart began to betray me. "No," I would tell myself, clutching the blankets tight. "This is a loveless marriage." I swore never to love him. I swore I'd never forgive them. But my heart didn't listen. One evening, about 2 weeks into our marriage, something unexpected happened. A storm rolled in, thunder, lightning, rain hammering against the windows. I had always hated storms. The sound reminded me of childhood nights spent alone, curled up in bed while Ji-woo was comforted in our parents' arms. That night, as the thunder cracked, I sat curled up in the corner of the room, trembling. I thought Gyumin was asleep, but when lightning flashed, I saw him sitting up, watching me. "You're afraid," he said softly. I turned my face away. "No. You are." He rose from the bed, walked toward me, and crouched down. His presence was overwhelming, warm, solid, unshakable. "Ji-won," he said, my name rolling off his tongue like a promise. "You don't have to pretend with me." I looked up at him, startled. No one had ever said that to me before. Not my parents. Not Ji-woo. Not anyone. My lips trembled. "Why are you being kind to me?" His eyes softened just a fraction. "Because you didn't choose this either." For a moment, silence wrapped around us, heavier than the storm outside. His hand hovered near mine, not touching, but close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from his skin. I didn't pull away. And for the first time since the wedding, I allowed myself to wonder. Maybe this marriage wasn't a prison. Maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning of something else. The storm that night changed something between us. Before, there had always been a distance, a silent agreement that we were husband and husband only in name. But after he crouched beside me, after he told me I didn't have to pretend, I could no longer ignore the way my heart shifted when he was near. He hadn't touched me. Not then, not ever. Yet his presence lingered like the warmth of a fire against cold skin. The days went on, but the silence between us grew less heavy. At breakfast he would ask if I slept well. When he returned late from work, I found myself waiting by the door with tea, and though he rarely smiled, I caught the flicker of gratitude in his eyes. At night, sometimes he would read quietly beside me, the soft scratch of paper a comfort I didn't know I needed. And slowly I began to see Gyumin not as the feared Mafia Alpha everyone whispered about, but as a man. One afternoon I found myself wandering into the mansion's greenhouse. I had always loved plants. Tending to something fragile and watching it grow was one of the few joys I carried from my childhood. I was kneeling among the orchids when I heard footsteps behind me. "You like flowers?" I flinched, nearly dropping the watering can. Turning, I saw Gyumin standing in the doorway, his hands tucked casually in his pockets. He looked out of place among the delicate blossoms, like a storm intruding into a meadow. Yes, I murmured. "They're quiet. They don't expect anything from me." His brow furrowed slightly as though those words unsettled him. Then, to my surprise, he stepped inside and crouched beside me. He studied the orchids with unexpected focus. "They're strong," he said finally. "Even if they look fragile, they survive in harsh conditions. People underestimate them." His words struck me deeply because for the first time, I wondered if he saw me the way he saw the orchids. Delicate, yes, but not weak. When I looked up at him, his eyes were already on me. For a moment, our faces were so close I could see the flecks of gold in his irises. My breath caught and I quickly turned away, pretending to fuss over the flowers. But my heart wouldn't stop racing. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking of the way his gaze lingered, the warmth in his voice when he spoke of strength. I told myself it was dangerous, that I must not allow myself to feel anything for him, that my marriage was built on betrayal, on lies forced upon me. And yet, when I turned my head on the pillow and saw him lying beside me, his chest rising and falling steadily, my chest ached with something I couldn't name. A week later, something happened that nearly shattered my resolve. We were in the car, on the way back from a gathering with some of his associates. I had stayed quiet the whole evening, trying not to draw attention. But as we drove through the city, our driver suddenly swerved, and the next thing I knew, the sharp sound of gunfire rang out. My body froze. Bullets. Real bullets. Down? Gyu-min barked, pushing me down against the seat. His broad frame shielded mine, his scent flooding the car as his pheromones surged to protect me. My heart hammered wildly as I clung to him. His warmth enveloped me completely, the steady beat of his heart against my ear anchoring me amidst the chaos. The attack was over quickly. His men moved with terrifying efficiency, neutralizing the threat within minutes. But I couldn't move. Even after silence fell, I remained curled against him, trembling. "It's over," he said softly, his hand brushing over my hair. His voice was different now, lower, gentler, almost protective. "You're safe, Ji-won." And that was the first time he called me by my name without hesitation. Not Ji-woo. Not a mistaken identity. Me. I looked up at him, eyes wet, lips trembling. Why protect me like that? You could have let me." His brows drew together, his jaw tightening. "Because you are my husband." The words sent a shiver through me. They were simple, but they carried a weight that went deeper than I expected. That night, I couldn't stop thinking of the way he shielded me. The way his arms had held me so tightly, as though he'd rather take a bullet himself than let one touch me. And when we lay in bed, my heart thudded painfully loud in the quiet room. I turned slightly toward him, and to my shock, he was awake, his gaze already fixed on me. For a long moment we said nothing. Just looked at each other in the dim light. Then, almost against my will, I whispered, "Thank you, for today." His lips curved faintly. Not a smile exactly, but something close. "You don't need to thank me for that." My breath trembled. The room felt suffocating, heavy with unspoken words. His hand moved slightly as if reaching toward me, but he stopped himself halfway, curling his fingers into a fist. And I was the one who closed the gap. Slowly, cautiously, I reached out and let my fingers brush against his. The touch was so small, so tentative, but the spark it sent through me was undeniable. His eyes darkened, his breath hitching. For a moment I thought he would pull away. Instead, his fingers slowly intertwined with mine, firm and sure. We lay like that, hand in hand, for what felt like hours. No words. No confessions. Just the quiet, fragile beginning of something I had sworn would never happen. My heart whispered the truth I refused to say aloud. I'm falling for him. There are moments in life you can't take back. Moments that alter everything, quietly, subtly, like a crack in glass that spreads until the whole window shatters. That night, when Gyu-min's fingers intertwined with mine, I knew something inside me had already broken. Or perhaps it had been repaired. I lay awake long after he fell asleep, listening to his even breaths, memorizing the weight of his hand in mine. I told myself it was nothing. That it was comfort, not love. That it was survival, not longing. But the truth was merciless. I was falling deeper and I had no way of climbing out. The next few weeks blurred into a quiet rhythm. Gyu-min still worked long hours, handling the dangerous affairs of his mafia world, but whenever he returned home he sought me out, not with demands but with quiet gestures. He would leave books on my desk, novels I had once mentioned in passing. He would ask me about my day, actually listening to the answer. He would sit with me in the greenhouse, wordlessly sharing the silence among the orchids. These were small things, perhaps insignificant to others. But to me they meant everything. And slowly the distance between us shrank. One evening I was in the library, curled up with a novel. The fire crackled softly, casting warm light across the shelves. When I felt his presence I didn't startle. I was growing used to it, The way he always seemed to fill the room without saying a word. "You read often," he said, stepping closer. "It keeps me company," I replied softly. "Books don't judge me. They don't demand I be someone I'm not." His gaze lingered on me for a long moment. Then, without asking, he took the seat beside me. Our shoulders brushed, and though I wanted to move, I couldn't. "What are you reading?" he asked. "A story about a man who falls in love with someone he shouldn't." His lips curved faintly, a shadow of amusement. "Doesn't that describe half of literature?" "Maybe," I whispered. "But it feels different when you live it." The silence after those words was suffocating. I hadn't meant to say them aloud. My cheeks burned, and I kept my eyes glued to the page, though I hadn't read a single word. Then, gently, his hand brushed over mine, just as it had that night weeks ago. I froze, breath caught in my throat. "Ji-won," he murmured, his voice low and careful, as though speaking too loudly would break the spell. "Do you regret this marriage?" The question struck me like a blade. I should have said yes. That was the vow I had made to myself, to never forgive, never love, never surrender. But when I looked into his eyes, dark and sincere, the truth slipped past my defenses. "No," I whispered. His breath hitched. For a moment we just stared at each other, caught in the gravity of something neither of us dared to name. And then, slowly, carefully, he leaned closer. His lips brushed against mine, feather-light, a question rather than a demand. My heart pounded so violently I thought it would break through my chest. I should have pulled away. I should have resisted. But I didn't. Instead, I tilted my head, closing the distance. Our lips pressed together fully, warm and trembling. His hand rose to cradle my jaw, his thumb tracing my skin as if memorizing it. The kiss was gentle at first, hesitant, but it deepened quickly, hungry, desperate, filled with everything we had both been holding back. When we finally broke apart, I was breathless, my face flushed. His forehead rested against mine, our breaths mingling. "Ji-won," his voice was raw, unsteady. "I don't want to hurt you. But if you keep looking at me like that, I won't be able to stop." My lips trembled. "Then don't stop." His eyes darkened, and for the first time I saw the storm within him. Not the cold, controlled Mafia Alpha the world feared, but a man starved of affection, aching for love. He kissed me again, fiercer this time, pulling me into his lap as though he couldn't bear an inch of space between us. My hands fisted in his shirt, my body trembling against his. The heat of him was overwhelming, intoxicating, drowning me completely. When his lips trailed down to my neck, I gasped, tilting my head back without thinking. His teeth grazed my skin lightly, and a shiver ran through me. But then he stopped. He pulled back suddenly, breathing hard, his hands clenched tight against his thighs. "No," his voice was rough, pained. "Not like this. Not unless you're ready." I blinked, dazed. He rose abruptly, turning his back to me, shoulders tense. "You don't understand what it means for me to take you fully. I've been betrayed once already. I won't risk confusing desire with love. Not with you." The words cut deep. I wanted to protest, to tell him I wasn't Ji-woo, that I wasn't like my brother. But the lump in my throat silenced me. So I sat there, trembling, my lips still swollen from his kisses, and realized with terrifying clarity, I loved him. After that night, nothing was the same. We didn't speak of the kiss, but it hung between us, thick and unspoken. Every brush of his hand, every glance, every shared silence was heavier, charged with something neither of us dared to say aloud. And yet, for the first time in my life, I felt seen. Wanted. Love. Even if he hadn't said the words yet, I could feel them in every stolen moment. And I knew, the walls I had built around my heart were crumbling, one kiss at a time. There's a moment when fear and longing collide, when you can no longer lie to yourself, when the truth presses so heavily on your chest that you either let it out or suffocate under its weight. That was where I found myself with Gyu-min. After our kiss in the library, the air between us was charged. Every glance, every brush of fingertips, every accidental touch sparked something that left me breathless. Yet he held himself back, restraining the fire I could see burning behind his eyes. And it drove me mad. One evening, I stood in the greenhouse, the orchids glowing under the lantern light. My hands trembled as I adjusted a flower pot, my mind swirling. I thought of the vows I had made. I'll never forgive them. I'll never love him. But hadn't I already broken those vows? When he shielded me from bullets, when he held my hand in the dark, when he kissed me like I was the only thing he needed, hadn't my heart already betrayed me? The truth was undeniable now. I loved him. And I was terrified. I didn't hear him approach until his voice cut through the silence. "You've been avoiding me." I startled, nearly dropping the watering can. Turning, I saw him standing in the doorway, his expression unreadable. His suit jacket was gone, his shirt sleeves rolled up, his tie loosened. He looked tired, human, vulnerable. I lied softly. His eyes narrowed. You have. You can't even look at me without flinching. I bit my lip, my chest tightening. It's not because I fear you. Then why? His voice dropped, rough, almost desperate. I couldn't hold it in any longer. The words tumbled out before I could stop them. Because I don't know how to stop wanting you. Silence. His body went utterly still, his eyes dark and burning. And then he moved. In 2 strides he was before me, his hand cupping my face, his lips crashing down on mine. It wasn't gentle this time, it was raw, hungry, full of everything we had both denied. I gasped against him, my hands clutching at his shirt, pulling him closer. He lifted me easily, setting me against the edge of the table, his body pressing into mine. Ji-won, he murmured against my lips, his voice trembling. Do you understand what you're saying? If I take you now, I won't let you go. Not ever. My heart thundered. My breath shook. But my answer was steady. Then don't ever let me go. Something broke inside him then, restraint shattering like glass. His kisses deepened, desperate, his hands roaming over me with a reverence that left me trembling. He touched me as though I were fragile porcelain, yet held me as though he feared I might disappear. My body responded instinctively, arching into his warmth, seeking more. When he carried me to the bed, his movements were careful, reverent. He laid me down as though placing the most precious treasure upon sacred ground. Tell me to stop, he whispered, his forehead resting against mine, his breath ragged. And I will. I wrapped my arms around his neck, pulling him down. Don't stop. And then there were no more words. His kisses burned a trail down my neck, my chest, my trembling skin. Every touch left me undone, every sigh pulled deeper confessions from my heart. When his pheromones surged, flooding the room with his scent, I gasped, overwhelmed yet craving it, my body answering with my own. Your scent? He groaned, burying his face in my neck. God's Ji-won, it's beautiful. Not weak, not fragile, so strong. So you. His words wrapped around me like a vow. The world outside ceased to exist. There was only us, our hands grasping, our lips colliding, our hearts racing together in unison. The first time was slow, reverent. Every movement deliberate, every kiss a promise. He watched my face constantly, ensuring I wasn't in pain, whispering my name as though it were holy. And though it was overwhelming, though my body trembled with unfamiliar sensations, I never once felt afraid. Because it was him. Because he was mine and I was his. When it ended, I collapsed against his chest, exhausted and trembling. His arms wrapped around me tightly, his lips pressing soft kisses into my hair. I thought I could never love again, he whispered, his voice rough with emotion. But then you came, and you destroyed every wall I built. Tears stung my eyes as I clung to him. And I thought I could never forgive, but you've given me more than anyone ever has. You've made me feel wanted. He tilted my chin up, his gaze fierce, unwavering. Not wanted, Ji-won. Well, you're my mate. My only one. My heart shattered, and rebuilt itself, at those words. And for the first time since our marriage, I kissed him not out of fear, not out of confusion, but out of love. Pure, undeniable love. The nights that followed were no longer silent. They were filled with whispers, laughter, kisses stolen in the dark. He spoiled me with gifts, not because he had to, but because he wanted to see my eyes light up. And I, in turn, learned his flaws, his scars, his weaknesses, embracing them as wholly as I embraced his strength. For the first time in my life, I was no longer the shadow twin, no longer unloved, no longer forgotten. I was Ji-won. And I was loved by Gyu-min. The house was quieter than usual that day. Perhaps it was fate. Perhaps it was the calm before the storm. I was sitting in the study, a book in my lap but my eyes drifting to the window. Outside, autumn leaves painted the garden in gold. For once, my heart was peaceful. After weeks of stolen kisses, whispered promises, and nights spent in Gyu-min's arms, I had begun to truly believe in our happiness. That peace shattered when the butler entered, his face pale. Sir, Master Ji-woo is here. My book slipped from my fingers. My pulse quickened, anger and old wounds burning to the surface. Ji-woo. My younger twin. The family's golden child. The one who abandoned Gyu-min on their wedding day and left me to pick up the pieces. I rose slowly, my chest tight. Where is he? In the main hall, waiting for Master Gyu-min. When I arrived, I found him there. Ji-woo. He was thinner than I remembered, his once polished features dulled by fatigue. The arrogance in his posture was still there, but beneath it, cracks showed. And when his eyes landed on me, he flinched. "Hyung," he said, voice trembling slightly. I stood tall, my expression calm, though inside my blood boiled. "Why are you here, Ji-woo?" Before he could answer, footsteps echoed, strong and steady. Yu-min entered the hall, his presence filling the room with a commanding weight. Ji-woo's eyes lit up. He rushed forward. "Yu-min." But Yu-min raised a hand, stopping him cold. His voice was low, cold, and sharp as a blade. "Don't call my name so casually. You forfeited that right the day you abandoned me." Ji-woo froze, his lips parting. I was foolish. I didn't know what I was giving up. The man I ran away with betrayed me. He left me with nothing. I realized too late that you were the only one who truly cared. Please give me another chance." My hands clenched at my sides, but before I could speak, Yu-min did. His eyes burned with anger, but beneath it was something stronger, conviction. "You speak of betrayal as though you're the victim," he said, stepping closer until Ji-woo shrank back. "But you betrayed me first. You humiliated me, abandoned me on our wedding day, and tried to sell me a lie. And now you come crawling back because you've been discarded? Do you think I'm so desperate that I would take back scraps?" Ji-woo's face twisted. "But you loved me." "I thought I did," Yu-min snapped. "But what I felt for you was nothing compared to what I feel now." Ji-woo's gaze darted to me, his voice trembling with bitterness. "For him? Young? He's nothing compared to me. He's always been weak, the unwanted one. How could you?" That was when I stepped forward. For years I had been silent. For years I had swallowed their cruelty, their favoritism, their rejection. But not anymore. "Enough, Ji-woo." My voice was steady, clear, cutting through the hall like steel. He turned to me, eyes wide. "You think you were the favored one, the loved one. But what have you ever given? You took and took, leaving nothing behind but broken promises. Yes, our parents chose you. Yes, they adored you. But love isn't favoritism. Love is sacrifice, patience, forgiveness. Things you never gave anyone." Tears stung my eyes, but I didn't waver. "I may not have been the golden child, Ji-woo. But I am not nothing. I am Ji-won. And I am loved. Truly, deeply, irrevocably loved." Behind me, Yu-min's arm slid around my waist, pulling me close. His warmth, his strength, his scent, it anchored me. His voice was steady, firm, absolute. "I am proud to call Ji-won my husband. He is everything you never were. He is stronger than any alpha, kinder than any soul I've known, and he is mine. My omega. My mate. My forever." Ji-woo's face crumpled. No, this can't." "It can," Yu-min cut him off. His eyes narrowed, his tone final. "You had your chance. And you threw it away. Don't ever set foot in this house again." Ji-woo stumbled back, pale, trembling. His eyes lingered on me, anger, jealousy, despair all mingled there. But he said nothing more. With a broken sob, he turned and fled the hall. The door slammed shut behind him. And just like that, the ghost of the past was gone. Silence lingered. My body shook with the weight of everything unsaid, everything released. Yu-min turned me in his arms, tilting my chin so I had no choice but to meet his eyes. "You were incredible." Tears spilled down my cheeks before I could stop them. I was so afraid I'd always be nothing compared to him. His lips brushed my tears away, soft and reverent. "You are everything, Ji-won. My heart, my breath, my life. You've given me more than I ever dreamed I deserved." I clutched his shirt, my voice breaking. "And you gave me what no one else ever did. You gave me love." He smiled then, rare and breathtaking, as though the weight of the world had finally lifted. "Then let us never let it go." And before I could answer, his lips claimed mine, sealing our vows not with words, but with the fire of our hearts. That night, we lay tangled together, our bodies warm, our souls at peace. For the first time I felt truly whole. No longer overshadowed. No longer unloved. I was Ji-won, the SS Omega. I was Ji-won, husband of Yu-min. I was Ji-won, loved and cherished. And nothing, not parents, not betrayal, not ghosts of the past, would ever take that away. The garden was in full bloom as I stood with Yu-min, our fingers intertwined. Laughter rang from the courtyard where his men sparred and trained, the estate alive with new energy. He leaned close, his lips brushing my ear. "Happy anniversary, love." I smiled, heart swelling. "Happy anniversary." As his arms wrapped around me, I knew this was no longer a loveless marriage forced upon us. This was our story, our love, our forever.